Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, my name is Sarah and I'd like to welcome you to day 5 of the Crochet Christmas Challenge. If you don't know what the Crochet Christmas Challenge is, go ahead and pop into that description where I explain it all in detail because nobody likes a long-winded intro. For day 5, we will be crocheting some squids. Now these guys are entirely no-sew. All the pieces are crocheted as we work the body, with the fin being worked as a separate piece but directly onto the body. That I know it might sound a little complicated, but I will show you exactly what I mean when we get to that step. For this tutorial, I will be working in plushy yarn rather than a size 4 velvet yarn. So I will be working with a size 6 yarn. I will be working with these two colors. So you can use a lighter color and a darker color, or all the same color. I don't have an example of that, but it should turn out just as cute. So pick your two colors and the size yarn. You'll need a corresponding crochet hook. For my rule of thumb is whatever size yarn it says on the label. So this is a size 6. I use the same size needle, so a 6mm crochet hook. Same goes for a 4, size 4 yarn, and so on. You will also need a pair of scissors, a sewing needle, and a stitch marker. And of course, some stuffing. You can either use safety eyes for the eyes, like I did with this mini here. He turned out a little bit angry, but he's still just as cute. Or you can sew the eyes on, which is what I will be doing for this tutorial, and I'll walk you through how to do that. I will be using a dark gray color for the eyes because personally I think dark gray looks nicer on lighter colors than black does. If you're working with darker colors, I do recommend using black. And you'll just need a small length of yarn for that. You can also use whatever yarn you have on hand for eyes. It doesn't need to be the same brand or anything as your other colors. So this blue yarn has a little bit of issues. It separates real easily. So some of the things I'll do in this tutorial, I'll show you how to work with yarn like this, just in case you end up getting a bad batch like I did. So setting your eye yarn and your secondary color aside, we'll start with our body color, and we'll start by making the body portion. This will be well, it's probably the easiest part because this is where it gets a little bit complicated, but it's not hard. The way we do the color change makes it really easy. So super easy. Let's get right into this. You will need your crochet hook. You either start with your magic ring or your chain 2 method, whichever is your preferred method. They both achieve the exact same thing and make zero difference. With this yarn, I will also be using a little bit of acrylic yarn. I'll show you what I mean by this. I'll be using just a small amount of this polyester velvet because it closes easily, and I'll be working with it to make my chain 2 method. If you haven't seen my previous videos, I did show this at least once before, but I will be showing it again. Start your slip knot and put your second color over top. Now this needs to be a type of yarn that closes easily, whether you're using the magic ring or the chain 2 method. And then complete your slip knot. Oops. Give me a second. I dropped. Make sure you pick up that second tail and pull it through like that. Basically, you want this extra bit, which we'll pull out later, to be completely free of that knot. Now just chain 2, and in the first round we will single crochet 6. Now using those two tails, pull them both and then pull that other yarn. And it's not going to close all the way depending on the yarn you're using, and I like to close it more when we finish the second round. I just find it easier, especially working with this thicker, heavier polyester yarn. It's a lot easier to close it on the second or third round. For round 2, we will single crochet 6. just like so. Make sure you keep your piece right side out. For round 3, we will increase in each stitch around. Now at this point, I'll turn my piece inside out and finish closing my chain 2. And I just like to wiggle this end. As you can see, the fluffies have decided to stay, which is very annoying, but this is what this batch of yarn that I have, that's what it does. I just accept the fact and use it anyways. So if you've seen my other tutorials, you've seen that I'll take the needle and I'll secure this end, but because this yarn is tedious, I will just be doing a different method. The way I do this is I insert my hook into one of any of the loops on this first round, pull that tail through, and then just chain 1 and pull through. And this will create a knot. This is just a little bit less messy than the other method when it comes to this fussier yarn. And I like to do this once or twice depending on how tight I managed to get it the first time. As you can see, this yarn is very fussy. What you can also do if you have yarn that is that it falls apart this much, you can also just pull the fluff off and then thread the needle with this and secure it. I've secured it enough for my taste, so I will just continue on. And I'm going to set these fluffies aside to stuff it later so that I can get rid of them. So now at this point, we will insert our stitch marker, if you're using one, into the end of this round and all the rounds following. For the next 2 rounds, we will single crochet in each stitch around. That is the end of the second single crochet round. So now for this next round, we will increase and then single crochet 1 into the next stitch, and we'll repeat that 6 times. For the next 2 rounds, we will single crochet in each stitch around. That is the end of those 2 single crochet rounds. Now at this point, you should have a bit of an ice cream cone shape forming, which will become the top of his head. We just have 1 more increase round left to do, where we will increase and then single crochet 2 and repeat that 6 times around. Now at this point, we will begin to form the head. So instead of crocheting 2 rounds like we've done previously, we will be crocheting for 3 rounds. So single crochet and each stitch around for 3 rounds. So while I'm single crocheting around, I wanted to talk a little bit about some comments I've received. Now, I've had several people ask me to slow down a little bit, and I really appreciate your feedback. Don't get me wrong. If I am going too fast on complicated parts, definitely let me know down in the comments below, and I will work to improve it. But my point is, before leaving a comment, what I want you to try to do is listen to the round. So whatever I'm going to have you do, listen to what I say without crocheting along yet. And then once you have seen what we will be doing for that round, then go back to the start of that round and slow the video down so that you can follow me along visually. And I think that will help you to get an understanding of what's going to come next, so you're not surprised by anything. And I know that listening to my voice in slow motion is probably not the most attractive thing, so that's why you should listen to me talk normally first and then redo the round. Most of my tutorials are designed for beginners who have an understanding of single crochets and decreases, the chain 2 method, or the magic ring. I do not explain these things in the videos, or the videos would be really long and they wouldn't be geared towards more intermediate crocheters as well. So that's why I try and cut down on that portion. If you are unsure on how to crochet the single crochet or anything like that, go ahead and find a better tutorial to just get you started. Okay, so that is the end of the 3 single crochet rounds. For this next round, we will be decreasing and then single crocheting 2, and we'll repeat that 6 times. I use the invisible decrease as I've done in past videos. You can use a regular decrease if it is easier for you to use. It won't make too much of a difference. Just like with the magic ring, the invisible decrease and the regular decrease are interchangeable and they don't make any difference in the final product, except maybe a slight difference in the way it looks. And honestly, most people aren't even going to notice, so keep that in mind. Once you have finished that decrease round, we will be actually working in the front loops for this next round. So we will slip stitch into the front loop of our next stitch. Then we will single crochet 3 into that front loop of the next stitch. So 3 single crochets into that same stitch, and then we will skip a stitch and slip stitch into the next front loop. Just like that. So we get one nice little round bump. In the next stitch, we will single crochet 3. We'll skip that front loop and go right on to that second front loop, just like so. And we'll repeat this 6 times total all the way around. So single crochet 3, skip a stitch, and then slip stitch. Once you come back around, you will have that slip stitch from the beginning of the round. We'll just slip stitch back into it again to finish that hump. Chain 1 and fasten off, just leaving a short tail. So this is the end of the light blue or whatever body color you're using. Unless you are doing a solid color, don't fasten off. But if you are changing colors like I am, fasten off. Now what we'll do is we will tuck this end in. So I like to create a little bit of a V to cover up that chain stitch. This doesn't need to be perfect. Just like that. And then I will take this end, and you can see the back loops over here of the previous round, and this back loop. We'll just go pull this yarn down right under it. And when we attach our new yarn, we'll secure this to that tail when we finish that first round, so you don't need to tie a knot right now. And here we have the body portion of the squid complete. Before we start working on the tentacle portion, we will use our eye color, whether you're using yarn or safety eyes, and we'll secure them onto our piece. If you're using safety eyes, you can put the safety eyes here, lower down, or you can put them a little bit higher up here. It depends on your preference. These guys are a little lower down, but I stitched the eyes on this round. So it's up to you where you want to end up putting the eyes. Keep in mind that if you do put them lower, it can be a little bit harder to get the back loops. So if you're a beginner who's using safety eyes, you might want to either wait until we finish that first tentacle round or put them up just one stitch higher. If you're using your stitches, if we're going to stitch eyes, just come up between that that last and second to last round and pull your yarn through, leaving just a short tail so we can secure it on the inside. Come up and above and back down through to that same hole. We'll be holding on to the tail on the back side just for this first eye. And I like to go back and forth 3 to 4 times, depending on the piece or how big you want your eyes to be. I really switched that around. I'll start with 4 and see what it looks like. Yep, I'm pleased with that. So now take this yarn back through and in through the inside, pull your needle up into the next space. So my second eye, I usually just eyeball it and make a decision. I don't usually count, but if you are wanting to replicate what I'm doing, it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 stitches away, 5 or 6 stitches away. Now I'll just repeat the stitching on the other side, and then bring that tail right on through into the body cavity. Now at this point, we will just tie these 2 tails together, and you want to tie them pretty loosely because you don't want to pull the eyes in any way. I accidentally left a little bit too short of a tail. You might want to leave a slightly longer one than I did, but then just tie it and leave it out like so. Now that we know where the eyes are, we can actually stitch these upper fins on before closing the body. Now, usually what I'll do is I'll stitch the fins on, I don't even know if they're called fins, but that's just what I'm calling it for this video, and then tuck the tails in and tie them before I close off the center hole so that I can get a better idea of where the eyes are and how it'll sit. But you should get the same exact effect by doing it with it unstuffed, which I'll show you how to do right now. If this ends up being a little too hard to tell where the sides are, then you can wait until it's stuffed, which I'll let you know when it would be the best time to do it. So using your secondary color or your first color if you're using the same color, well actually, if you end up using the same color, you'll have to wait to do the fins or cut it and rejoin it, but that's up to you on whether or not you want to do that. So fold your piece in half with your eyes facing straight in front of you and insert your crochet hook into your piece, and we're going to slip stitch. For the more technical people, will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows down. Then we will chain 2, just like so. And into that next stitch, we will double crochet. And into the next stitch, we will half double crochet. So pull through all 3 loops. And then again, into the next stitch, half double crochet. There you have it. In this next round, we will single crochet, just like so, and pull some more yarn out. And through that first row, we'll actually go all the way through and we'll single crochet 3 into that row, or that round, proper name, just like that. And then working back onto the other side, we will single crochet into the next round. We will half double crochet 2. And then double crochet 1. Excuse me. Now we will chain 2 and then slip stitch into that final round. Chain 1 and fasten off, just like so. Now, before you fasten off, you can also take the piece off and straighten it out again if you end up finding that it's not quite as straight. Personally, I would have picked a slightly different blue than this, but this is all the color I have on hand, and I wanted to give you the best contrast. But you can also use the same color, like I said. So the next step for this, we will pull our ends through, and I'll just use my crochet hook and pull the ends through. Just like so. Goodness, I'm choking on who knows what. At this point, you'll need to secure the ends on the inside. So how we'll do this is we'll keep a hold of these 2 tails, these blue tails, or your secondary color, excuse me. And we'll actually just stuff the point of this squid. So just take a little bit of stuffing and stuff the point. You want to stuff to this round or wherever your fins end, and then turning the piece just a lightly inside out, we'll tie these 2 tails together. And you want to do this tight, but not too tight, because you don't want to drag the sides in. So just leave a good space in between, double knot it, and then flip your piece right side out again. This is my difficult yarn, so it's poking out. So I'm just gonna take my crochet hook and attempt to pull it back in real quick. Hopefully with the yarn you're using, you won't be having these problems. But because this yarn is incredibly difficult, this light blue yarn, it's messing around with me. I'll repair that later. It's not a big deal. You can just stuff these extra tails in here now to get them out of the way, and we'll start working on our tentacles. Hopefully it's picking up that dark blue on the camera enough. If not, I'll end up having to brighten it in editing, so it should be fine for you. So we will just create a slip knot onto our hook like so with a short tail, and finding our start of round, we will decrease first. So I like to just go through both back loops. If you have a hard time doing that, depending on the yarn, you can just do a regular decrease as well. Now for this next round, or next stitch, we will chain 10. So I don't know about anyone else, but personally, I do not like working with Bernat blanket because it sticks. I'd love to hear your thoughts on which yarn your favorite to work with. I personally like the plushy yarn, even though it falls apart sometimes, way more, just because it slides. So continuing on, sorry to get distracted, we will skip that first chain, and we'll skip that for every rest of the tentacles we do, and we will increase into that next chain, and we're going to increase into 7 chains total. So now at this point you should have 2 chains left, which we will just single crochet in regularly, no increases. There you have it, our first tentacle. And now I'm going to show you a trick to close up that hole, especially when working with plushie yarn. So this is the single crochet, and through that front post of that single crochet and through the next back loop, we will single crochet right through. So yarn over, pull through both those loops, and single crochet. Hopefully that was shown on camera. I know this yarn is a little bit dark. Let me know down in the comments and I can release a specific tutorial on how to do these little tricks with a more visible yarn if that's something you're interested in. Now in the next stitch we will decrease. So going through the next 2 back loops, we'll decrease. Just like so. Now we'll start our second tentacle, which we will chain 10. Skip that first chain, increase 7 times in the next 7 chains, excuse me. Ugh. Once you finish those 7 increases, just single crochet in the final 2 chains. And let me show you that trick one more time. You see this single crochet here through that front post and then through the next back loop, just like that, and single crochet. So yarn over, pull through both those stitches, and then finish your single crochet normally. And there we have no gap at all. And that is the end of your second tentacle. I'd also like to take a second to point out that depending on the yarn type you use, your tentacles might turn out just a little bit different. The burlap blanket is slightly thicker than this plushie yarn. Even though it's the same weight, it is a little bit thicker. So the tentacles are turning out a tiny bit bigger, but overall it's looking pretty good. So we're going to repeat this process 4 more times for a total of 6 tentacles. I'm beginning to regret working with this blue yarn on camera. this yarn and I definitely don't like each other. Just 2 more tentacles to go. Nicest part about working with the two-tone is you can finish the fin before closing it up, which means that when we finally finish and close up the piece, that's it, we're done. Which is honestly it's my favorite patterns, because when you close up that piece, you don't have to add anything else to it, you're just finished. There's such a satisfying feeling about that. Like with my chicken pattern, if you guys haven't seen it yet, you can go check it out, I'll link it in the description. I make sure to complete all the features on the chicken before closing up the pattern. So all you have to do is close up the pattern and it's just done. It's honestly super satisfying. I don't know if you guys agree, but it's definitely one of my favorite styles for patterns. And don't get me wrong, I do enjoy sewing pieces on. It's just sometimes I like that easygoing pattern where you just sew it up and you're done. Alright, we've finally come back around. Hopefully you guys are with me as well once I finish this last single crochet. Otherwise you can just pause it and catch up. And I know I crochet pretty fast. Now at this point we will stuff. So you can just pull that tail up and stuff. I like my pieces to be fairly firm, but not, you know, too firm. You don't want it to break somebody's face when, you know, somebody's playing with it, you know. I just imagine little kids tossing these around, and yeah, you wouldn't want it to be like a packed snowball. That's what I imagine it as anyways. Here we go. Actually, I think this one turned out really cute, even though this blue yarn is, both blue yarns are quite hard to work with. There we go. And there it is stuffed. So now we just have one round left. If you're working with, you might want to stuff it a little bit less and then stuff it after we finish the next round, depending on your yarn that you're using. I'm gonna see how far I can go without having to take any stuffing out. So for this next round, we'll be decreasing in each stitch around, and this can be a little difficult because we'll actually be decreasing around each tentacle. So I just recommend doing the regular decrease, pulling through, going around, and picking up that next stitch. Just like that. And repeat that all the way around, rather than trying to fuss with the invisible decrease, especially with this Bernat yarn. So I actually do need to pull a little bit of stuffing out because I forgot to secure the ends. Let's see if I can get this blue end up. Nope, can't. So I guess I didn't get very far before I had to pull stuffing out. So with these two tails that you have left over, if you did your color change, we're going to take our secondary color and we're actually going to close up this hole here with it before securing it. You can just pick up any loop there and just put it right back through. It doesn't really matter where you put it. And then that will close up the hole a little bit. And then you can just tie it to that second tail we have and tuck those in. Get rid of them. And there you don't have a gap anymore, which you will have if you don't close it up. There's not really any way to avoid it, so that's why I just like to secure it with that extra tail since it's there anyways. Stuff the stuffing back in real quick. And then finish the last 3 decreases. That's 4. And when you finish those decreases, just slip stitch, chain 1, fasten off, leaving about a medium length tail, just because we'll be closing up that center circle, and then we'll be finished. So here's what it's looking like so far. Now would be the time to crochet the fin on if you haven't done it already. If you are working with the same color throughout, now would be the time to do it. Unless, of course, you fastened off, which is perfectly fine, and refastened on. So we'll just thread our needle with this tail and collect the front loops of each stitch around. I like to just do these one at a time just to avoid catching the tentacles, and lean it so that the yarn doesn't get hooked on it. This can be really annoying, but thankfully we're not actually attaching anything down here, so that makes it easier. So once you close up your center ring, we will just create an arch and tuck our needle through it, and that will create a knot. And now we can just tuck this tail into the body. I like to weave it in 3 times. Make sure that tail isn't going anywhere. And there you have your very own mini squid, or large squid if you ended up using plushy yarn like I did. There we go. Personally, I will be leaving the Bernat yarn for off-camera pieces for the rest of this Christmas challenge. Go ahead and use the yarn if you like it. Personally, it's not my favorite. Here we are, we have our blue and our yellow. Honestly, it did turn out really cute. I like how the head of the tentacles stick up, but I also like how they hang down on this one. So if you want them to hang down, you can always just stretch them out a bit and get them to hang down like so. Or they can sit up on their own, which is super cute desk buddies if you're into those things. This tutorial did run a little bit long. Hopefully this will be the longest tutorial in this challenge. But thanks for hanging out. Thanks for crocheting. If you liked the tutorial, make sure to like it so that the algorithm knows that you liked it and it'll share it with other people. That was pretty long-winded, but you get my point. And let me know down in the comments if you crocheted this for the Christmas challenge or if you're here after the Christmas challenge. I'd love to know. Hopefully I'll see you in day 6, and bye.